Hey folks, how's it going? This is Iron Seagull here, and today I thought I would open an interesting discussion on a topic that I found on Twitter about the worlds in The Sims 4. Not about the size of them, but how close or far apart the lots are to each other. One thing I have noticed with more recent worlds is that the playable lots tend to be pretty spread out, so your neighbors in certain cases may not really feel that much like neighbors. I mean, it still makes sense in certain worlds, especially more rural ones like Chestnut Ridge and Horse Ranch, or Hanford-on-Bagley in Cottage Living, but I found it so weird that in Sequoia from Growing Together, this was still a thing, because this seemed like the pack to do a dense suburban neighborhood where the playable lots are right next to each other. But no, like, they're pretty much all really far apart. Like, there's one empty lot that's close-ish to the Michaelsons, but it's still not right next to each other, so it's not really the same thing as having, like, the neighborhood with your typical white picket fence sort of thing that I figured Sequoia was going for. But then you just have this big area with so many of these dull-looking decor buildings that you can't even see inside at all. So it's just kinda odd. I don't know if this is something they're gonna keep doing or if it's just been a coincidence. Seagull Valley, probably one of the most criticized worlds for The Sims 4, did have an interesting idea where there are two lots that are right next to each other with no gaps. And Jack of All Games tweeted about this, saying, "This is the only time The Sims have put two lots side by side with zero gaps, and I wish they did it more often. Think of the townhouse potential with no gaps between lots." Exactly. I think this also could have been another great idea for Sequoia, because with it taking inspiration from San Francisco and the Bay Area, I thought they were going to have townhouses that are right next to each other in a downtown area, but they didn't really do that. And following up, Jack of All Games says, "Definitely not saying every world should be like this, but at least one neighborhood with 4 lots or so side by side in the future would be awesome." It seems people really would like to see something like this again in the future, going by the replies. Just for some feedback, 3 to 4 lots side by side with no gaps at some point would be fire. And Magnetic replies saying, "I wonder if it's a technical thing. I'd have to ask around. Sadly, it may end up being lots of work." I don't think people will be too happy with this response, but it seems kind of maybe promising, because Singer Ninja did also reply saying that he pinged him some info. But it is good to see that the Sim Gurus continue to look at our feedback. And here it is in-game, the 2 lots that I am talking about. So they are in the starter neighborhood, Mirage Park. One of the 2 lots already has a house built on it, but then the other one is pretty much empty aside from some plants. Come to think of it, I don't believe I've seen a pair of builds on the gallery that are meant to be placed on these 2 lots. That would be interesting to see though. There must be some, somewhere. But I still feel this is a good proof of concept that they could do something like this in another world in this game. And I hope they do, especially if they were to give us more city worlds, because I know I'm far from alone in wanting that, because even though we have San Myshuno, they could still do other cities that would look distinctly different from that world. And especially if they took influence from cities around the world, not just in the United States. There are at least a couple of factors to consider though, which I think Magnetic might have meant by saying that there could be a lot of work to deal with this, because if they were to do another neighborhood with lots being super close together, especially if it was all 4 or 5 of them, it could end up meaning that there won't be as much explorable area, because that is what happened with Mirage Park here. I wouldn't say it's quite as bad as some of the base game neighborhoods, but there isn't really a whole lot to walk around and see. Bringing up Hopewell Hills in Sequoia again, if that were to have all 4 of its lots really close together, would it make sense to have as much of the area surrounding them to be playable? Because there was a lot there. I was kind of shocked, especially like behind the park. You can still go down the sidewalk of that street. But then you realize there is barely anything to do because you're just walking down the sidewalk with buildings that you can't interact or even see inside of. Maybe they could still add activities in that space so it's not as bad. Add some collectibles, or even add things like, say, the boardwalk in Copperdale with the different activities there, like the Ferris wheel and the Tunnel of Love and all that stuff. But then that would take up more budget, because then it's like, oh, they have to do more gameplay rather than just drawing a few buildings that they repeat over and over. Depending on the pack that they would be making this world for, then it could end up being something that would be a nice addition, or it could take away from the main focus of the pack. The other thing would be performance, because that is the reason why they're giving us such small worlds nowadays compared to the earlier times of The Sims 4, because they're being more conscious of making the game run well on a wide variety of computers. And I do understand trying to balance so that you don't have to run the game on a supercomputer. You don't want to alienate too big a portion of your fan base, but on the other hand, I think they've gone too far towards the other extreme. I just find it so hard to believe that they need to scale things that far back compared to earlier worlds. But either way, that is a factor in development of these worlds, so I wonder if there is a drastic performance hit in having multiple lots that are close together instead of further apart. I imagine there would be. Maybe they still could find a good compromise though, pretending that we do get another urban world in this game. If one of its neighborhoods has 5 lots, then 2 of the lots could be townhouses that are right next to each other, and then another 2 of them could be a pair of apartment lots, because side note, yes, I do want more apartments, and even though I'm not a builder myself, I know the building section of the community would be very excited about that. And then the last lot could be just one that is made to be more of a commercial lot. So you could have 2 lots that are very close to each other, and then you would have the pair of apartments that are encased in a shell building, and then the commercial lot could be farther away. That's pretty much all I have to say on this topic, so I think this was an interesting discussion to open up, because whenever we get a new world, yeah, it makes sense that we would be talking about whether the world is too small or if it feels too empty. But it's a nice change of pace from that sort of stuff, a different aspect of the world design. So feel free to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Would you like to see some more dense worlds with some lots that are packed closer together than usual? And be sure to subscribe if you'd like to keep up with my latest gaming content. I will talk to you all later, and have a great day. Thanks for watching!